us out on YouTube, Facebook, and X. And for the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. And that's just a sampling. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. For laptops, mobile phones, and tablets, download the Roku app. National Streaming Sports, live and on demand, sports talk for America.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now, with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. It's kind of a special Monday we're doing here today. Is James, the J Train, and Prim and Proper's host, Sonia Pearson, is joining me and Jack as we kind of talk about the Super Bowl. Me, Sonia, and James were there for the first half watching the game, so we'll get all their ideas. Of course, Jack will give us his thoughts, and he did change from the Chiefs to the Eagles at the last second. Me blowing it, I changed to the Chiefs. I don't know why I did it. I was with the Eagles the whole time, and then I decided to go with the Chiefs. But I was right about one thing. Chiefs won. Hurts would be the MVP, which he was. So anyway, at least I got one thing right. Listen, the Chiefs don't three-peat. It shows how hard it is to three-peat. I don't think anybody expected that big, huge butt whipping is the only way I can say it, where the Eagles just dominated the Chiefs 40-22, Jack. And I don't know if you watched the whole Super Bowl or not, because at 8 minutes, Eagles are up 40-6.
No, Mac, I only caught the replays. I didn't watch the game. I mean, I caught it this morning so I could talk about it. Who didn't watch the whole game, Matt? Come on.
Oh, my God, the whole game, Jack? Good morning, everybody. Wow, the Super Bowl?
Well, you want to see how the game unfolds. You know, the Chiefs got a couple of late scores, so it kind of made it a little deceiving. I mean, 18
Yes.
pretty resounding loss. But you do take a little out of that. It's we a lot of times pick teams based on their reputation, and we, look at certain players based on their reputation. And I think that's how I was looking at the Chiefs going into this game. That's why I was wavering back and forth. You keep hearing everyone tell you, how can you pick against the Chiefs? They've done it time and time again. But you have to look at teams and players in their current state, and even the great Patrick Mahomes. I mean, everyone readily acknowledged going into this game, well, he's the best quarterback in football. There's Patrick Mahomes, and then there's everyone else based on accomplishment. But if you look at what players are right now, strictly that, Patrick Mahomes might not even be a top 5 quarterback, arguably, or barely a 5-top quarterback. Can we really say at this moment, forgetting what he's accomplished in the past, that he's better than Josh Allen, better than Joe Burrow, better than Lamar Jackson? You might not be able to say that.
I'm not sure about that. I still think Patrick Mahomes is a top 5 quarterback. I mean, He had a bad game. I mean, his offensive line didn't protect him, right, James? I mean, he was running for his life. They kept him in the pocket. Every time he tried to move up in the pocket, somebody was there waiting for him.
Look, Jalen Hurts ended up being the Super Bowl MVP, and I think is deservingly so. But the undercover or secondary MVP to me would be the Eagles defense. They just annihilated the offensive line of the Chiefs. And Patrick Mahomes had nowhere to go. He was pressured. He was uncomfortable. I mean, there was like 10 pressures, I think 6 sacks. And that's without blitzing. They didn't blitz not one time. So to just tell you how devastating that defensive line was. And they deserve their props. I mean, to me, it kind of reminds me of a situation when we're looking at the 2007 New York Giants when they played the Patriots. That defensive line just gave Tom Brady's a hard time, and he never really recovered throughout that game. It's kind of similar here, but and both kudos to both sides of that team. The Eagles deserve to win this game. They showed that they were the better team all game.
Well, Jalen Hurts got the MVP because you have to give it to someone. Jalen Hurts basically managed the game. He played a good game, just one mistake under the interception he threw, but he played a good, solid game. But you're right, the Eagles, defensive line, I mean, that was the story of the game. But Patrick Mahomes played a poor game any way you look at it. You could say he was under pressure. They game planned very poorly, the Chiefs as well. Didn't even try to establish a running game until the second half. And Patrick Mahomes is basically staying in the pocket. There wasn't much imagination with him rolling out and trying to be mobile.
Yeah. I know they tried it once or twice at the end of the game, but too late then. Let me give you some stats on Hurts. 17-22, 221 yards passing, 2 TDs at 1 interception, 72 yards rushing, 1 TD. That, I think, was the key to the game. There was no answer for Jalen Hurts running, Sonia. I mean, every time that he dropped back, it would open up, they'd be following his receivers, and he'd take off.
Yeah, I mean, that Eagles team looked astounding on both sides of the ball. They were the more complete team. The defense was literally devastating. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen Philadelphia's defense just cover so well with such I think if I remember correctly, that defensive team is pretty young, the average age of that. But so is their offense to a degree. I know y'all don't believe in numbers, but yesterday was Saquon Barkley's birthday, and it was also Cooper DeJean's birthday. Both of them had MVP caliber performances. The summation of both of their jersey numbers was 59. I love that. The fact that yesterday was Super Bowl 59. And sometimes it's just in the cards. But Jalen, I mean, the team that they looked like yesterday, they look like the reverse of what the Chiefs looked like last year. I don't know what the disorganization was with the Chiefs, squad, but they just looked like an unrecognizable team. Travis Kelce was only targeted 3 or 4 times. He had like 8 yards at almost the completion of the game for the whole game. Even at the half, you, Mac, and J Train, we were on talking. Travis Kelce only had the Chiefs' total yards was only 14. Yeah. That game was implosive from the very beginning because it feels like they imploded upon them own selves. The good thing about it, we didn't see a lot of Swift coverage, and I'm talking about Taylor Swift, because when they weren't scoring and first down and all that, it was less exposure for her. So a very disgruntled, follow-up. But Jalen, clearly the MVP, just a stable of talent there. And J-Train, you guys are getting their offensive coordinator, right? Oh,
if nothing comes in between that, yes.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge asset to New Orleans, but it's also going to be a loss to the Eagles going forward because that's a huge play, the offensive and defensive coordinator, huge play for that team. But I'm super excited. I'm wearing my green today. Congratulations, Eagles.
Well, there you go. Jack, I mean, it seemed like, we talked about Kareem Hunt, before the game. I think it was the show where, if Kareem Hunt and Pacheco could get going somewhat, get a running game going, that maybe the Chiefs could run on the Eagles a little bit. But they only ran the ball. They only attempted to run the ball 7 times, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, 3 carries apiece for Pacheco and Hunt. I mean, that in itself is revealing too. But just the play calling in general, like I mentioned a while ago, they were playing a traditional offense with Patrick Mahomes fading back, and the pass rush would be on him. And once the pass rush was giving Patrick Mahomes fits, there should have been some imagination with rollouts, other plays, and it was like Patrick Mahomes got flustered, and I've seen it happen with him before. I saw it happen a few years ago in the AFC Championship game when they lost to the Cincinnati Bengals, the way the Bengals broke down the Chiefs' offensive line. We saw it in the Super Bowl when they lost to Tampa Bay. Any quarterback, if you're on them and you're beating up on them, basically, it takes a toll. It's like they're expecting the lineman to come right at them. And that's what happened yesterday. And those interceptions, those 2 he threw, you can judge yourself just watching it. I'm watching it. The moment it happened, my head went in my head instinctively. And I normally don't do that over an interception, but they were such bad throws. That's why I went like, what? I don't know about all of you watching it, but just bad throws, point blank. And I think, and you saw the look on Mahomes. He was just like stunned and completely disorganized, and it's like they couldn't really get anything going. It was bad. When they were down 24 there at the half, I mean, I knew there's no way back. You hear the commentators saying, well, if they could get one spark, take the ball down and score in the second half, remind the Eagles it's a game. Of course, that's correct. But you kind of knew there was absolutely like no way back at that point.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, they looked like there was some disorganization at some point. Something was very off, even with it was no chemistry with the team. Like the Kelsey, Mahomes chemistry we've seen the entire season, it almost looked like there was some type of issue between them from, because he was only targeting Worthy. Worthy was the receiver of, those 2 big plays that they had early on or whatever.
Yeah.
And DeAndre Hopkins drops a pass, and, when things were going bad, now they have to punt the ball, on 3rd down. Yeah. A drop that normally wouldn't happen. I mean, he stumbled a little, and you could even see Chris Jones on the sideline get down on his hands and knees and put his head down like, what? Yeah. I mean, that should be routine. And just when they needed to get something going, right? DeAndre Hopkins, a potential Hall of Famer himself, drops an easy pass.
I wondered if Chris Jones kind of was trying to say
James, the Eagles kept going. I don't know about that, but James, the Eagles, they kept going for it on 4th down too. You saw Kansas City putting the ball away. The Eagles weren't doing that. They were going for the win. They were going for the kill. Even at the end, where they thought they were going to run the clock out at the halftime, that play action pass, touchdown to Smith.
Look, the Eagles, this is kind of like their mantra. They just knew, like, we can't allow any type of door for Patrick Mahomes to try to make an attempt at a comeback. They really wanted, they were hungry. They wanted to go ahead and make sure, look, we're going to make sure we win this game. We're not going to just play soft. We're not going to play easy and run the ball, and then punt the ball off and allow them to come back and, dink and dunk and come back and get back in this game. Because you can see Patrick Mahomes, at the end, he still was trying to get back into the game. But no, this is the kind of game you play. When you see blood, you go for the kill. And that's just what they did. I mean, and Jack, I want to go back to the interception that you mentioned about Patrick Mahomes. The second one was really just a great play by Zach Bond. I just think that he dove for the ball and got a really good interception for him. It showed why he was an All-Pro this year. They just got outmatched, man. And I think Kansas City just looked like they the team like this all year. They play very close games, and how difficult it is to try to win 3 years straight. They play more football than almost anybody in that game, in that stretch of games. So they play. It's just hard. It's hard. I'm pretty sure they probably wore out, and the best team beat them. But I mean, that's just a difficult thing to do. So my hats go off to Kansas City for getting this far, that far out like that. But I think the better team just won this game.
That caught up with them. That caught up with them. Those close games that we've like, wait a minute, this could have gone either way. And I always say, when I saw how the Panthers played them, and the Panthers were not that good, like during that time, we were the worst of the worst. We hadn't quite turned. I mean, I was just shocked that this was the Chiefs, playing this way. And we saw it with a couple of other teams. And so when you play a bad team, I mean, yeah, I know it's the broke clock is right twice a day mentality, but we've seen it consistently this season with teams that should, not be winning. Who was it? The Raiders beat them this year? Was it the Raiders?
Oh, no, the Buffalo Bills beat them during the season, and then the Denver and the meaningless game for them, the last game. Yeah, that was a meaningless game for the Chiefs. That was a throwaway.
Yeah, but
I wouldn't hold that against the Chiefs at all.
Yeah, but the Broncos game wasn't meaningless. That was
the Broncos game was meaningless. It was the last game of the year. The Chiefs had the number 1 seed locked up. It was a complete throwaway game.
Not that one. This was a game earlier in the season that they lost.
No, they lost to Buffalo early in the season. That was a meaningful game.
Yeah, one of those. I was like, wow.
Yeah, but but you're right, Sonia, so many games, like even the first game of the season against the Ravens, the receiver having his foot on the line, that would have been a touchdown by just like a couple of inches, whatever. So many close games, but then again, they took it up a notch in the playoffs. They beat Houston. They reversed the loss to Buffalo. But James, you mentioned about the interception. Okay, great play by Philadelphia. But the play before the Devontae Smith touchdown pass, Chiefs have 4th and 3. He's trying to pass on the sideline to Xavier Worthy. That gets batted away. That could have gotten returned for a touchdown, conceivably, too. That could have been a pick 6. They were so out of sorts, they couldn't convert a 4th and 3. They tried to get cute and run a play that's out of the box a little bit different, and that's not even working.
Yeah, almost nothing worked, Jack. You're right.
And let me tell you another thing, what I think they should have done. You see Chris Jones on the sideline having his neck getting massaged and getting put back into manipulated. Dead push. You're not going to stop it anyway. And I hate to say this. Maybe tell your defensive players, don't hurt yourself. They're going to score anyway. Just give it to them. Why, strain yourself and risk injury or whatever on a play like that, unless the game's on the line at that moment.
Maybe so. James, we talked about Spagnuolo as a great defensive coordinator for the Chiefs. And listen, they did hold Saquon Barkley in check pretty much the whole game. But Vic Fangio, he had called a great game. No blitzing, just a front four, as you said before. Coverage was kind of tight, and the ball hawks were all over the field. It's like they knew what the Chiefs were gonna do, at least in the passing game, every playoff.
I mean, I love the matchups. I from the beginning, before the game even played, I love seeing the receivers. I thought that the cornerbacks for Philadelphia would be evenly matched against the receivers for the Chiefs. And I think the biggest thing is just the defensive line. Everything goes hand in hand. The defensive line allowed everybody to play their game. They didn't have to bring anybody else in the box. They shut the run game down. They got pressure on Mahomes. I think the biggest thing was just that defensive line was just devastating, man. It allowed everybody. I mean, they showed a sky cam. The reason why Patrick Mahomes, some of those were coverage sacks. These guys were covered. I mean, they couldn't even get to he couldn't find a guy open. Even they must have played a lot of man, because the great Travis Kelce could not get, I didn't see a lot of zone where he can find. He's usually a great zone spotter where he can get soft spots in the zone. None of that happened. I mean, he really got shut down. And so Vic Fangio had the key pieces to be able to call those great games, man. I think it's just they've done well in the draft. You know, Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, both great players, man. It worked out for him. I mean, and you got C.J. Gardner-Johnson. You know, if that wouldn't have been the offsides, that's another interception we're talking. So yeah, it's just really good game plan. That defense again probably should be the MVP as well.
Jack, go ahead, Jack. Go ahead. You go ahead.
Travis Kelce didn't speak with the media afterwards. That's a very bad look. A very bad look. I can understand in a rare instance an athlete is so crushed by a defeat that he can't bring himself to talk in front of the media. I can understand that, but only in a situation if it was a Scott Norwood type. You missed the winning field goal. You're completely devastated and no one could console you that moment. I can understand not coming out and maybe give a guy a pass. But by the way, Scott Norwood faced the media. Travis Kelce certainly had enough time to know his team wasn't going to win the game during the game. It wasn't like a shock last-second loss where he was absolutely devastated, where he couldn't bring himself to come out. A very bad look on the part of Travis Kelce. You know, if you're going to speak to them when you win, you got to speak to them when you lose.
Yeah, that's true. And I was thinking about that too. I literally had to go through YouTube last night to see if there was a clip of him anywhere, because I was like, I've got to hear what he got to say. And it was literally like a small, maybe a minute clip from the locker room where somebody just went in there and talked to him. But it sounded like it was the media. But I mean, you know, Jack, we see this a lot. It's extremely painful. These guys have been pumped up all week. You compare the media clips from 48 hours prior to the Super Bowl to post game, and it's like just like it would be for any of us, you know, in that moment, truly humbling and debilitating to a degree, because you put so much into this. That's why, you know, they tell you stay level-headed going in, play the game. It's the big game, but don't let the moment consume you. Because when you go in and talk junk, like, yes, you know, this is our game and we've got everything we need, you know, and you're not just, you know, keeping a level head or a measured amount of, you know, of pride about it, but you're going beyond, like, basically, we've got this in the bag. That's when it becomes debilitating, where you can't talk to the media.
Look, Travis is one of those guys that has that bravado, and he did when they win, he don't hesitate to let you know they winning.
Yeah,
he gonna give it you, and he even give it to his own coach. So I agree with Jack. When you win and get that kind of, you know, notoriety, and you allow yourself to be out there and boast and brag and do everything else, you got to take the L's too, and tuck your tail between your legs and stand there in front of everybody and let everybody know, you know, hats off to this team, they beat us. That's just, to be honest, which is kind of disrespectful to the other team to not, you know, acknowledge that they beat you.
And like Jack said, this score is deceptive. These boys didn't score until the last 5-10 minutes of the game. They scored like one little 6-point here or there, little measly points, but they were routed. This score could have very well, and let's be honest, there were two occasions where the Eagles really should have had a touchdown, and they ended up going for 3. So this could have been 50 points easily to 6, you know.
Jack, you know, Mahomes is normally the cool, calm guy, right? A couple of years ago, it looked like Jalen Hurts got shook. It was just the opposite this game. Mahomes looked rattled, but Hurts looked really calm. In fact, producer Linda said maybe they ought to check him for gummies. You know, maybe he's on gummies or something. But whatever. I mean, it was just different this time around for Hurts and Mahomes.
No, Hurts a couple of years ago wasn't shook up. Outside of the fumble that was returned for a touchdown, he played a really good game. And he even led him on the tying touchdown drive and didn't get the ball really back in that Super Bowl game. But you're right, Mahomes was completely rattled. And it's not the first time. Like I mentioned earlier, I've seen it happen other times. And the thing about it, when the Chiefs lost to the Buccaneers a few years ago, they had major issues on their offensive line, and they did correct them, but they're back to where they were before. Even Rob Gronkowski, who was a member of that Tampa Bay Buccaneer team that beat the Chiefs, said in their game planning they felt that was the one weakness with the Chiefs, the offensive line, that we could get to Mahomes. And it was the same thing in this offseason. That's what the Chiefs are going to have to address. That's going to be obviously their main need, protecting Patrick Mahomes. It's an issue with virtually every team in the NFL. It seems the offensive line. With the Chiefs more so. I mean, it's urgent that they do something in the offseason. And they're not going to draft high enough to get one of the elite offensive linemen, even though someone might be there for them. They'll see what's available in free agency, and we'll see how that plays out.
Good morning to Bo Crouch. Glad to have you with us this morning. Bo doesn't jump in too many times. At least he doesn't comment, so I'm glad to see him in here today. Check him later on the oh my God, Coast to Coast. I imagine Pags will still be in Philadelphia, the Philly sports guy. He's probably still partying from last night. And my bro chimes in with GM Chief Steve spent too much time on stopping Saquon Barkley. What would be your game plan if you're going in there, right? I mean, you can't forget about the rest of the game, but you got to stop Saquon. You don't want him running all over you. So,
let me just point out the Chief defense played a good game. They played a good game from start to end, okay? And the score's deceptive because Patrick Mahomes basically handed the Eagles 14 points. And the way the game played out, good solid game by the Eagle defense. Steve Spagnuolo, you got to credit him to hold Saquon Barkley to 57 yards. Good game. The receivers didn't go wild on him. So it was on the other side of the ball, in offense.
What do you do, Jack? What do you do when, you're covering, everybody's covered, and all of a sudden there goes Jalen Hurts running for 15, 16 yards, 20 yards. I mean, how do you stop that? I mean, that's
Jalen played a good game. He wasn't. Let's not get a little carried away. He managed the game well. He played a good game. Jalen Hurts basically wasn't the difference maker per se. It was the whole unit how they played. I mean, and I would have voted for Jalen Hurts as the MVP because you had to vote for one particular player. And he was the guy, but let's not get carried away that Jalen Hurts is, this great, amazing quarterback who played an amazing game yesterday. Played a good game. A good game.
But I will have to agree with Mac on this one, Jack. The difference for them to continue on drives were some of those big runs that he took off for to allow them on third down, to allow them to continue drives. And so, I mean, yeah, you're right. I agree. It was a good game. It wasn't great, but those key drives allowed them to continue and get those big drives. But some of those key throws, I mean, that big bomb to Devontae Smith, 46-yard touchdown, man, that was key out of nowhere. It was great. It was a dime he threw in there.
He played a good game, but he was also given time, something that
his O-line protected him.
Oh, yeah. That's the best O-line in the game.
He deserved to be Super Bowl MVP. Jalen Hurts will be Eagle quarterback for years. Really good quarterback. He's trending towards being a Hall of Fame, even though that's a ways off. So I've always liked Jalen Hurts a lot from the time, he's in college, Alabama. Great attitude when he was benched for 2 of that game. Tremendous respect. But, there was a storyline that we didn't talk about beforehand and before the game that we should have. Carson Wentz being Patrick Mahomes' backup. Could you imagine Patrick Mahomes had to go out and Carson Wentz came in as the chief quarterback, considering the history with the Eagles? We didn't really talk about that. I thought at the end of the game, maybe Carson Wentz would be given a series just to get in the game because the Chiefs were, so far gone, the game was over. Just as the Eagles put in Kenny Pickett just so he could get in the game. Okay, that was a nice gesture by Nick Sirianni. You always want the players to play in a Super Bowl game if you can. But Andy Reid was going to go with Patrick Mahomes to the last drop, even if they were down 100-0. He was going to, squeeze out Patrick Mahomes. The Carson Wentz never got in the game.
I mean, he let him carry that loss.
Sideline at one point, Carson Wentz together, like talking. So you could kind of see a nice little bond over there. Carson Wentz had a reputation as maybe being an eye guy, but you got the feeling that, there was a respect there between the two quarterbacks, and that Carson Wentz completely bought into being a backup.
I mean, it wouldn't have been any loss for them. I'm sorry, Mac. It wouldn't have been any loss for them to put Wentz in that game. Like you said, Jack, even if it was 100-0, I mean, it may actually have been advantageous. Carson Wentz played with some of these guys. He's familiar with some of the run scheme that they have. It may have been, especially after they were so far down, just go on and take a couple of, snaps, see what you can do. I don't know.
Wait. Advantageous for, do you mean when the game was still, the Chiefs had a chance? You're inferring they should have maybe benched Patrick Mahomes and put in
not necessarily benched. I don't want to say benched, because when it's benched,
they should have changed quarterbacks when they still had a chance.
Yeah,
the Chiefs to Carson Wentz,
but just
and sat down Patrick Mahomes. You're not saying that.
Let me explain what I'm saying, because when you usually bench a quarterback, they're done for the entire game. I'm saying, like, say, for instance, the third quarter, when there was a possibility that they could have come back a little bit. I'm not saying that Carson should have played the duration of the game. I'm saying at least give him a couple of snaps, because Patrick looked exhausted. He had been sacked numerous times, and at least to give him a couple of snaps to take a couple of breaths. He was snapped back to back for a minute. At least bring Carson in, let Patrick get some water or whatever, and then bring him back out. That's all I'm saying.
Wait. I remember you were sacked back to back. That could shake a quarterback up, but you're not going to run Carson Wentz onto the field cold all of a sudden on 3rd and long and expect him to do anything at all.
I mean, but they were grasping at straws. They were already disorganized. It wouldn't have made that much sense.
You're talking about one of the greatest quarterbacks in football history, who's in the prime of his career, basically. You're going to bench him for a guy who's a retread, basically Carson Wentz, and put him in with the game on the line.
We've seen games all the time where the main star, I've seen it with Russell Wilson in his heyday, we've seen them take a small break and come back. That's all I'm saying.
If he's injured, if you think he's hurt anyway, the wind is knocked out of him, I can understand for one play. We understand that.
Yeah.
But to try to do that, to alter the trajectory of the game, putting in Carson Wentz for Patrick Mahomes,
I'm just saying, to me, I don't look at Patrick as this like Lamar Jackson type. I look at it like this could have been the wind, WIND, that Patrick needed to get himself together and come on back out there rejuvenated. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. So that's her opinion. That's your opinion, Jack. James, let's go to Nick Sirianni, 1-1 in Super Bowls now. And he has a team right now, a young team, as Sonia said, that can go to the Super Bowl again, that could maybe win another couple Super Bowls in the next 5 years or so. I mean, this could really make Nick Sirianni a possible Hall of Famer.
Yeah, look, I'm not opposed to that. I know we discussed on the debate show yesterday regarding whether or not if he gets a Super Bowl win, if he's going to be the greatest Eagles head coach. He could be on his way. I mean, right now he's 49-20, I guess. I mean, if including the playoffs, he's 48-20 in his record in the short term. He's been in 2 Super Bowls, 1-1. They have a collective team. Sirianni, I mean, he got a lot of flack last year for what they didn't do with the great talent that they had. And so, what a great way to bounce back. I mean, you got to give them GM and himself some kudos for getting a good hire in Kellen Moore, and they seem to utilize the talent when they needed to, and they beat everybody in except 2 games in the NFC, and they look like they could be if they got young enough talent as well. They got Saquon under contract. He's young enough still. Jalen Hurts, their quarterback at 26. It's pretty impressive to see what they can do. I just look, Detroit, they lost both their coordinators and losing to several other coordinators. We don't know what they're going to be like. Sam Darnold, is he going to be the quarterback for Minnesota? I mean, Chicago may be on the come up, but we got to see what they can do first, with Ben Johnson. Philadelphia, and then looking at their own division, the Cowboys, and unfortunately, I don't mean to down you, Mac, the Giants, are not competitors right now. I mean, hopefully there's no sophomore slump with Washington. They look like the team that to beat to go next year. They're probably going to be the favorite to go again.
I would think so.
And look at the way they finished last year. They were sinking ship. They were awful. And to get it together this year the way they did, I mean, I was really surprised based on how they finished last year. Give Howie Roseman, their GM, I mean, the bulk of the credit. He's the one that put together this team. Nick Sirianni's done a very good job, but look at the players he's had to work with. Howie Roseman, you could argue, maybe he's the greatest GM in the history of the NFL. I mean, I don't know what the answer would be, but certainly in modern times, and certainly today, there's been no better GM at like building a team.
Bill Polian, probably one of those great GMs too.
So just a little small plug, CBS Sports just released about 12 minutes ago that Sirianni is basically asking for Kellen Moore not to leave. So I don't know.
Of course, he's not going to want him to leave. I mean, they got a good relationship. They did a great job.
Yep.
Well,
so I don't
CBS
know.
Didn't break anything. I mean, we all know he doesn't want him to leave.
But I bring that up because I know everybody's expecting him to sign with New Orleans. I don't know if the ink is dry on that. If he signed anything or what, James? Do you know? You're muted. Your line is muted.
Kellen Moore?
Yeah.
So Kellen Moore, there hasn't been obviously the finalities of the or details of the contract hasn't been done yet. That's happening this week. But virtually a verbal communication in regards to him being the head coach. That's what's been done. So so barring no major setbacks, he's the head coach.
But
I saw that the technicalities hadn't been ironed out because he wasn't supposed to really be ironing everything out until the conclusion of the Super Bowl anyway. So that's why I was asking about that.
No, but that's a good point, Sonny. There's something to think about here for you, Kellen Moore. You got a sweetheart deal if you're with the Eagles. Okay, you really do. And that's the money issue too. Let's say hypothetically you're getting an extra $5 million a year to coach the Saints. Right. I'm just throwing a number out there, even though chances are might be more than that. But let's say the Saints are paying him $8-9 million a year. An assistant coordinator like that gets about $3 million a year. Let's say the Eagles give him, $6-7 million a year. They pay him only a couple of $1 million less a year. Do you really want to go to the New Orleans Saints? No offense, James, because that looks a little bit like a dead-end job. You really don't have a franchise quarterback in Derek Carr. You have a team that's in transition and not in a good way. Okay, too. And if you're with the Eagles, you're going to continue to win. Okay, and you're going to, your stock is going to be high. You got a great relationship supposedly with the head coach in the organization. They love you there. It's something you got to think about. Is it financial? Is it the opportunity to be a head coach?
He's probably going to get more money anyway for winning the Super Bowl. He probably gets some type of bonus, because Saquon and Jalen Hurts, like, come on. you got to reward him for that work that he did, because last year
Wait,
that offense was pretty stagnant. He literally revamped them,
he
along
gets a
with
salary.
Saquon.
Yeah, why give him a bonus? They got to give everyone a bonus.
Yeah, you
Come
do.
on.
You do.
Hey,
I'm just
look
saying.
here. First of all, the Jets are no day at the beach, Mr. Jack Hirsch.
Oh wow.
So I'm not
I'm not. This
saying
got nothing to do with the Jets. He's not going to the Jets as the head coach. I'm just saying he has a choice to
He
make.
got his work cut out if he
If
goes
he's
to
given
one.
the
I'm a
Saints
rebuttal
word,
that. I'm a rebuttal that. Sean Payton, it was no day at the beach for him either when he came there. And what did he end up doing?
Yeah, well, he's
but Sean Payton didn't come from the same situation.
Sean Payton
Oh,
came from a decent organization. I mean,
He did.
the Dallas Cowboys.
But the look at a better case will be, how about pointing Eric Bieniemy? He had
yeah,
a
they were talking about
sweetheart
him.
deal with the Chiefs, a cushiony job, okay, very comfortable. They were winning, and he wanted to branch out. And look where he is now. He's the running backs coach of the Bears. I mean, he went from the offensive coordinator to Chiefs.
But that might be a more reflection of Eric Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator. Andy Reid probably was calling the plays there.
Didn't Kellen Moore get fired from Dallas?
Say it again.
Didn't Kellen Moore get fired from the Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah, but I mean, he had a couple of good years
there.
there.
You go. So
I think, guys, I think every dream of every coach is to be a head coach of a team.
Yes.
I don't think Moore is going to give up that chance to go to try to at least try to coach, be a head coach of the Saints. If he fails in a couple of years, whatever it is, he can get back another job in the NFL. He can go back. I just think that's a dream of everybody as far as coaching head coach, to be head coach in the NFL. I don't think they just coach to be offensive coordinators and offensive and defensive coaches. I really don't.
You're 100% right, man. But I just want to point out the case, Brian Schottenheimer. He's getting a chance to be an NFL head coach after all the years as an assistant. But when he was an assistant under Rex Ryan, he turned down an opportunity to be the head coach of the Buffalo Bills at that point because he was so happy being the coordinator, being them. Ben Johnson, okay, he finally decided to become a head coach this year. He would have been a head coach earlier, so you can't pick and choose your spots. It depends if you're thrilled to be in the environment you're in. But also, James, if he gave him his word to New Orleans Saints, he was going to be there, as their head coach, and then he turns it down. Where's his credibility? Didn't we have a case like that with Josh McDaniels? He verbally told the Indianapolis Colts he'd be their head coach, and then he decided not to.
That's why I brought that up, because he could still back out. It looks bad.
You're right.
But he could still back out.
But let me ask you this, Sonia. Let's say he backed out. Okay, you're 100% correct. He backed out. And down the line, he wants to be a head coach. Doesn't his credibility take a little bit of a hit? They remember that he had agreed to a job before and then backed out. It's a bad mark on him, I think.
See, I think it depends on how his current team is doing when the next team offers him a head coach job. Normally, we see that with teams that are in the playoffs. That's where everybody's seeking the talent, is from those particular teams. But say, for instance, he has a team that's in the playoffs, but they're not all the way in the playoffs, like how, past the wild card or whatever, and he has an opportunity. Yeah, the new team might think about it, but at that point, they'll be like, okay, he's not going all the way for the Super Bowl, so there's a less likely chance that he's going to back out this time. We're going to go ahead and bring him in. But it's going to always be there, because it's kind of like once you lose that credibility, because it's a testament to his credibility that you verbally agreed for something. It's a difference in agreeing and just negotiations. Negotiations, at any given time, somebody can say no or yes.
It's not, no. At this point, he probably has an agreement in place that these are the parameters. As soon as the Super Bowl's over, I'm going to sign it. I'm your guy, so on. But because he could wiggle out of it if need be, I guess that's why Sirianni and the Eagles are like talking to him. And they're probably going to put a new deal on the table for him to try to give him a reason. And we don't know what Kellen was thinking. Maybe he's wavering. maybe it's hard for him to leave the Eagles now because everyone's giddy. They won the Super Bowl. He has relationships there. Now he's going to, supposedly New Orleans. But and it's tough to say goodbye to Philadelphia. It's a little different from 2 years ago with Gannon and Steichen, who went to Arizona and Indianapolis because they lost the heartbreaking Super Bowl. So, the Lions got eliminated with Ben Johnson. So him and Aaron Glenn could go. But when you win the Super Bowl and the organization wants to reward you with a new contract, it becomes, I think, a little harder to leave.
So, James, what do the Chiefs look like next year? They've got to make changes. Their offensive line wasn't that good. Kelsey's getting older. What do you think? What do the Chiefs do?
You still got Andy Reid. You still got Patrick Mahomes. Still got Chris Jones. Those three are key pieces that you need to play a great chess game. But you definitely, in order to be formidable against a team like the Eagles again, you got to right the wrong. I agree with Jack, what he said earlier about the offensive line. You just got to definitely get in the draft or free agency. I mean, if available. Fix that line to be formidable, but that might be everybody's problem. Everybody needs to fix their offensive line. I just think, and then at the wide receiver position, maybe you don't have Rashid Rice this year. Maybe that helps if he's healthy in the game. I don't know. They're still looking for Tyreek Hill, and that is not that guy. I mean, don't get me wrong; they've won without Tyreek Hill, but now you got teams that are trying to match up with you. They saw what you had in your receiving group. They were okay. They're okay. But this defensive back group, the secondary, was able to match up with them. So I think ultimately you need a guy, maybe a T. Higgins if you can get him to come there. You need an X guy. I didn't see that guy. Maybe it was Rashid Rice in his rookie year, but I'm still looking at a guy that's just bona fide, like a Jamar Chase or a Justin Jefferson, someone that's just going to be like
not going to get a superstar. James, you're talking about superstar receivers. You can't just go out and get one. Let's say I'll give you one name who's probably not available anymore, Garrett Wilson. Let's talk about Devontae Adams. Would he be the guy? He would be available.
He's a little too old, though. He's a little longer than two.
Right, okay, but you're not going to get a superstar. They got DeAndre Hopkins.
Very long in the two.
Worthy. But those guys can still get it done. I
didn't see anybody put up the numbers like Tyreek Hill when he was there. I just think that's what's missing.
Perhaps T. Higgins. But yesterday, you're right, it was the offensive line. It didn't matter who the receivers were. You could have given Mahomes the greatest receivers of all time. It wouldn't have made a difference yesterday.
All right, Sonia, let's get to the most important part of the game, which some people think is the commercials. I don't know about you all. I mean, I've seen some commercials this morning that I swear I didn't see last night. But for the most part, they were the silliest, stupid things I've ever seen. I don't know how they paid $8 million to put that out there. I don't remember, I don't think hardly any of them. So what are your thoughts about the commercials?
I mean, I was not impressed. I said I was going to go through today and go on YouTube because YouTube always has like an extended version of some of the commercials that didn't make it, to main air because of, these things are expensive. So financial regards. For me personally, I feel like, and this is just me, and I know so people that know me know sometimes I kind of think middle ground, or even some of my friends will say I think like a guy as opposed to like a female. But for me, I just feel like some of these commercials are so focused on trying to make sure that women are included in a lot of stuff. And, they just go too far. I mean, there was a commercial about bras. I saw a commercial before the game about tampons. I'm like, come on. No one is interested. We get it. We're all human. It's kind of the equivalent for me if there was a soap opera marathon and all of a sudden there's, sorry guys, there's like something about ball spray. I don't care, like I'm just saying, this is how I feel about it. It was more irritating than anything. And guys, I really think this is just a sign of the times thing where these Gen Zs or Gen ZZs or whatever they are is so AI driven that they just plug and play information into AI and let AI figure it all out. And it's a catastrophe because you're missing the real stuff that humans really care about. You're letting everything just seem robotic. And so AI is like, oh, it's 2025. Let's make sure we talk about this, this, and this. And really, we may not be there, and I feel like at the end of the day, there's just situations that some of these people are asleep on the job. And I always tell people, some people are so lazy that if they had a job getting paid to sleep, they'd wake up and quit. And these commercials were not centered towards the audience. I feel like they missed the mark and they were just fillers, just something to plug in the holes of what was absent. I'm going to have to look again, but I didn't see any commercials that were super exciting to me. That's just me. Or funny.
Yeah, they had that.
Be funny.
That's a great point. They had that one commercial about a woman putting on Saquon Barkley type moves, completely outplaying the man. I mean, give me a break. Don't tell me, oh, we want to have, we want to give women an opportunity, don't think out of the box think modern or this or that. I mean, it was like we were being reprimanded, for like being, having these old time views of this or that.
It was crazy.
But that's what sports is. That's how it is on every talk show you see. That's how it even is with us. I just noticed now for the first time. Every sports show, it seems you have a white guy, a black guy, and a woman on the panel. We happen to have it here, but accident by coincidence, I think.
Right.
What a thing. I mean, I never really realized that before.
Well, that's why I brought James and Sonia on
That's
this
why
morning.
Sonia left. She couldn't handle what I was saying.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you, Mac, for DEI. We appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. You're welcome.
No, but every show, it seems. Every show, it's like we're so sensitive with diversity, this and that. And, which we should be sensitive about it. But I think people who tune into sports shows want to hear sports talk first and foremost. And if you want to hear societal issues, and it does come up sometimes related to sports, I understand that and should be talked about when it does come up. But I think people tune into shows because of sports. I mean, they want to hear about the game. They want to hear about the players.
I mean, I agree with that. It just seems that, some people say they watch because of the commercials or the halftime show, which I want to get to with James real quick here. Now, I let my feelings know last night. I mean, I don't know what the hell that was last night. I really don't. I know Serena Williams was up there doing some kind of dance, and listen, there are groups that everybody would like. I mean, Prince, Michael Jackson, Bruno Mars, great entertainers. Everybody likes these people. And I mean, I know there's still some entertainers out there that would do the Super Bowl. So I don't get it, James. I didn't get it last night.
I think all of us, I mean, Sonya just turned 50. I'm about to turn 50. I think we're all just getting a little older, and it's just everything's changing. Like you mentioned, the commercials, the creativity has gone away. I think the disparity between the age gaps and what's being put out there now is just really changing, because you notice a lot of people still play Michael Jackson, still play Prince, they still play Madonna, they still play all the old music or sample the music. So it's just really hard. I think my mother-in-law was just saying this last night when she was watching the game after we got off the show. She was just saying, what was that? And I know Kendrick Lamar, I like Kendrick Lamar, but I said, maybe they need to start allowing some of the older artists to be incorporated into these newer artists' shows or whatnot. That way you can see a blend and everybody can enjoy the shows. Because I agree. I just thought that it wasn't really a great show.
I
I mean,
mean, but
I like Kendrick Lamar, and I'm a huge fan of him as a rapper. But the performance just wasn't all that great.
and see, but for me though, I liked it. Like I saw there was like a whole, all the news media have been like throw up a heart or throw up an angry face depending on whether or not you liked it. And I liked it. Serena Williams was up there crip walking. I thought like, oh wow, okay, y'all bringing the whole LA culture into the Super Bowl, but that's just how they do. And Mac, no offense, when it's New York, they'll be bringing in all that too, but y'all don't do all that. West Coast is a whole different vibe. It's like it's us and then it's them. And so that's just how it is. And I think, I like the show. I know there was a lot of cultural references in there that were very, like, a lot of the stuff that was being rapped about. I think a lot of people got so caught up in the music, they missed the message. And you have to be able to, and I'm not saying from an age perspective, I kind of teeter in between the both. Like, I feel
Well,
like,
I mean, if you like rap, put up LL Cool J. Everybody
no,
likes
there's,
LL Cool J. Ron
yeah.
DMC. Ron DMC. We all like Ron DMC.
This is what I was saying,
Yeah,
Sonya,
but
the age gap.
But there's gotta be, but see, for me, I'm the type person I literally try to stay connected to both. I love all the music I grew up with, but I also try to keep a balance of what's going on today. There's no rapper or singer of any genre, country, rap, rock and roll, that I can't tell you about because I'm just musically inclined that I listen to everything. Like I listen to all of it. So, but like you guys are saying, everybody doesn't do that. So they have to be able to have somebody like you said, James, and you too, Mac and Jack. You have to be able to marry all of your audience members by your entertainment. No, it was not the best performance by a long shot, but I enjoyed it. I don't know, maybe I was just looking forward to the coordination of how he had, the choreography and stuff like that. They could have done a lot better for it to be the halftime show. Let's be clear, but it wasn't bad. I will say this. I knew for a fact that our commander in chief would not be there for that because I knew what type of artist Kendrick Lamar is, and we didn't see no more shots of number 47 throughout that game other than the initial introduction.
Maybe he has some work to do too, Sonya. He is the president.
Yeah, some more orders to sign.
There you go. I mean, he had to step out for a minute.
You know what got me too? You had in the beginning, before the game, they're like marching in the Fox crew with Tom Brady with about the city of New Orleans.
That was sad.
Marching in together. And I'm thinking, isn't it more appropriate for Drew Brees? Was he in part of that to be walking instead of Tom Brady? And even playing the national anthem, they made it out to be such a beautiful thing. And it was just some years ago where what Drew Brees, New Orleans icon, said, he has too much respect for the anthem, to not stand for it. And he was, basically condemned, and he was in danger of losing his TV job.
Sean Payton was there. Sean Payton was up there. So yeah, I don't know where Drew was. I didn't even think about that.
I didn't see everyone was there. I was trying to pick it up, like looking myself. But during the national anthem, it was nice. But there's no longer any talk about with a knee, taking a knee and not taking a knee, whether you feel it was right or not. But the point is, it was an issue some years ago, and now how does it turn into a complete non-issue when things in society haven't completely turned around? I mean, the issues, in part at least the same as they were not that long ago, but the society evolves, the mindset changes. I mean, the same players were standing so emotional for the national anthem would have been, embarrassed maybe they've stood for it a few years ago. They would have felt they were selling out by standing for it. The NFL orchestrates things.
I gotta close it out here, Jack. We're at the top of the hour, almost out. Coffee and Sports should be up next. Hopefully they are. This came by accident. I mean, this was just thrown together as James asked me and Sonya asked me. And Jack said, well, we really didn't talk about it. But I'm glad we did it because we got a lot of different viewpoints on the Super Bowl and all the things around the Super Bowl. And we were able to cover it maybe a little bit better than me and Jack just would have. But anyway, we'll see you